Welcome to the Grinders Table, the podcast where we sit with C-suite executives and founders who are taking their industry by storm to figure out how you can build an exceptional career and business. Together, we'll try to uncover how they are both defying the odds and what you can learn from their experience. Our guest today learned some of our most valuable venture capital lessons on a rugby field in France. Now she's reshaping African startup investment space through a unique first follower principle that challenges traditional venture capital wisdom. But her journey began with a philosophical discussion she had with her father on the dinner table, and we're going to go into that. But before we go into the conversation, I'd like Ghita to introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you, for this very kind introduction. I'm very happy to be here with you discussing, about the African ecosystem and the VC space, generally speaking, as I always enjoy also discussing with you out of this podcast. So happy to share now our discussion publicly, let's say. So as an intro, I would say, Ghita, as you said, Ghita Zniber. I'm Moroccan. I was born and raised in Morocco before going to France. Studied there, went to try to travel a little bit to discover other ways of doing things and what's happening in other countries, let's say. Then I founded 2 ventures. Then I also launched a venture builder for a group of investors. I also worked during some corporate, mainly in France. Then did again some consulting from private consulting before launching Kalys Ventures. So, and Kalys Ventures is the topic that we are covering today is around venture capital. So it's a VC fund. Maybe I can start introducing it, Uem.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's what you had in mind? Okay.
We're not only going to be talking about VC, you're going to talk about your journey. But yeah, talk about
Sure,
Kalys Ventures because
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really important that we hear about it.
So Kalys Ventures is a fund that we have launched 3 years ago with my co-founder based in Morocco. So we have decided to, at the beginning, we wanted to invest only in women, but then we decided to extend our investments to African startups. We can dig deeper about that after. We have decided as well to be sector agnostic, so very opportunistic about the investments that we do. We have invested so far in 6 startups covering logistics, mobility, fintech, blue tech, hospitality industry, and FMCG. So as you can see, very diverse. And one of our, let's say, footprints is really the fact that we are really behaving as, trying to be as sparring partners as we can to our portfolio. So very active and helping them as well, having access to some local corporates. So yeah, that's it about Kalys Ventures. We can talk more about it after.
Yeah. Your story is actually quite interesting because before this podcast, I typically would do some light research on people that I'm going to be speaking with. I found out that you played rugby, and I was shocked. What was playing rugby like for you?
Where did you find that?
Well, on the internet.
I gotta do some cleaning there. But no, I'm happy to say that I was playing rugby, but for me it wasn't really public, but I guess everything we put online becomes public. But yeah, rugby was really, a life-changing for me because I played rugby when I joined my business school in France. I had to choose a sport and I didn't want to go just to things that I know and things that I could have done in Morocco, like soccer or basketball or whatever. I wanted to try something new, and rugby in Morocco is very for men, it's not really for so I have never been pushed to even be curious about that sport, let's say. So the idea was to just do something different. But when I started playing rugby, I felt that it added more value to my life than just discovering something new, mainly in one thing, which is learning the ability to say no. And this is something I had a very hard time with before playing rugby. And the main reason was, when you play rugby, whether you're able to attack first and then you're not hurt and injured, but if you let the other person from the other comes first to you and gives gives all its power to when it hits you, then you're really down and you're injured. So I didn't have a choice. My only choice was to learn how to hit first, and thus the ability to say no, let's say. So really, like, it was that teach me that, and this helped me a lot in my life. So I felt, because when you learn how to say no, you just give more respect to yourself, and that's very important to everything else.
It's interesting the lessons we learn from trying things out, because I wouldn't
Yeah.
have thought that this lesson of learning to say no, which is an important lesson, you would have got that from rugby. So
Yeah.
very, very interesting. And I know a lot of people struggle with saying no because you want to appear competent. Sometimes you just want to please people. Sometimes you just don't know how to say no. And this is a really, really good
Exactly.
lesson.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, sometimes you mix kindness with respect for yourself, and not all the people you meet know like their limits, let's say. So it's important to, protect yourself, to know when to say no, when you feel that this is out of, your own limits. So yeah, great learning from rugby. And I'm happy that you're bringing this out.
Yeah. Another thing I found is that you mentioned that your father was very, very influential, and you sort of referenced in another conversation a dinner discussion you had with him. Can you talk about how that conversation has influenced your journey from, being a student, working with other people, building ventures, and then now in VC?
Well, so I had like many discussions with my dad. So I'm not sure about the one you're referring to, but I have some in mind. I mean, you can like whether tell me the one you
No,
have in
go
mind,
for it.
or
Anyone.
go, okay.
What's the most profound one? What is one that you always remember?
Yeah, there are two things that I can tell about how, like, my dad really played a very pivotal role in my life. I mean, my mom as well, because I don't want her to hear this podcast and feel that she didn't play any role in my life. But I think that they were both very pivotal in the choices I did, during since I was born, actually, I guess. But I always had like very deep and philosophical conversations with my dad. And there were two things that I always remember when I think of him. First one is the importance of having values. So when I was 12, one day he came late. And I was between 10 and 12. I don't really remember the age, but I was really young, still young. And it was almost 1 a.m. It was a weekend, so like Friday night. So I was still awake at 1 a.m. Don't judge like their parenting, what? 12 years old and she was still awake at 1 a.m. It was a Friday, I guess. So he asked me, what are your values? And, at 12 years old, I don't even know what does it
Exactly.
mean to have values, I tried many words just to give him some answers. I was like, is it to be kind? Is it to not lie? Is it, And he said, take some time, think think about it. Uh, there's no rush. Just think about it. But know one thing is that if you don't have values, or if you don't know your values, then you will always be lost in your life and you won't have any anchor whenever you need to take very important decisions in your life. So, the kind of decisions where you're lost and you don't know what to do. When you have values, it's always easy for you to find the answer. But when you don't, then, you don't know what's good to do and what's not. And I felt he was right. So I really took the time to think about finding my values. The exercise wasn't easy because I had, like to be kind of mature compared to my age and try to test some of my values, let's say, with the word and see what I feel when I do that or that. And so one day I felt happy because, like, okay, I have 2 or 3 values that are really important for me. And when I act differently from that, I just feel I don't feel myself. So I asked him and my mom for Sunday. We used to have brunches together on Sunday, but with my brothers and sisters. but I decided to book the brunch with them on Sunday, just with them, without my brother and sister. So they kind of didn't like it, but that was fine for me. I was egocentric when I was younger. So we just went for that brunch, and I was very proud of me to be able to share my values with my parents and say, do you think that this might be my values? And since then, because you asked me like how this had an impact on everything else in my life, I think that I've been challenged a lot for the past 10 years since I started to become, let's say, to enter the professional world, let's say, from being junior to growing more and more. I've been challenged a lot, whether professionally or personally, but every time I was able to find back my path to these values. So I'm very thankful for that. That was the first lesson I learned from him about the importance of having values, whether when you choose your co-founder or when you invest in a startup, what's the kind of investor you want to be for them. When you choose your husband, because I'm now married since last year, when you choose your life partner, also what's important. So yeah, values are very, very important to me, and then it helped me a lot since I found them, let's say.
Thank you for sharing that.
No, you're welcome.
That was really, really good and true, because values sort of are your guardrails that help you. Well, the concept of right and wrong is different for different people, but they sort of guide you on how you behave when people are there and when people are not there. So I really loved that you shared on your values. When did you realize that supporting entrepreneurs was your true calling?
And that's also a great question. Because I said earlier that I was myself a founder at a certain stage where I decided to, discover out what would it be to do your thing and build your thing and work for it. So I knew that I didn't want to work within a company. That was one thing that I was sure about when I started doing my internships and interacting with the corporate world. And there was one thing that was common between like all my previous managers. They were all saying, you're so hard to manage. So really, that was something they were all saying. And the reason why is because I've always wanted to do not only what they were asking for, but really to have this 360-degree point of view regarding a problem. For example, if I had to only work on digital marketing, we'll always go and see how the solution that we use for digital marketing can also be used for the HR side or for the logistics. So I always liked to not only look at the problem from one side, but really from the whole value chain. So when I understood that, especially when you enter a company as a junior, what is expected from you is to stay focused on one thing and to do it well. When for me, I was more looking for, something that can give me the ability to work on a broader space, let's say. So that was the first conviction that I had, is that I didn't want to follow, like an adventure in the corporate world. But I wasn't sure if this would be right after my graduation or maybe 3 years to 5 years after my graduation. And then I kept this idea in mind. And I remember that when I went to China for an exchange program, I met a teacher there, like a professor there. And I shared with him that point of view, the fact that I wasn't, when I was seeing some friends that were sure about the fact that they wanted to do marketing or finance or whatever, I was kind of frustrated to not be able to say, do 100% love finance, and I would like to grow into that industry and be the best one in finance. But I wanted to be able to manage and master, let's say, all the competencies, let's say, because I wanted to be a generalist, let's say. So he told me that I was a generalist. So that was when he did my, let's say, psychological analysis, let's say. And he said, you're just a generalist, but you're a generalist that feels more like in pain than embracing his ability of being generalist. So when he told me that, it was just like I learned something new, but at the same time, I felt that I wasn't the only one being like that. And so since that day, I started embracing the fact that I was a generalist and being okay with my ability to not only look at a problem from one perspective, but really from different perspectives. And when I started embracing it, I started seeing the power of it, meaning that in a lot of companies, you're not looking always for specialists, but you also need that person who's able to understand every specialist, but not being like as good as that specialist, but at least you're sure that the person, the generalist, will be able to like align everyone with the global strategy of the company. So when I really understood it, I felt the difference also on a personal level. That was the second conclusion that I learned. And the third one that helped me understand that I wanted to work with entrepreneurs. The third and most important one, I think most impactful one as well, was, so I told you that I have launched 2 ventures, right?
Yes.
And during my second venture, I was in parallel at UC Berkeley in the US, where I spent 1 year. And there I also had like another class called Leadership for Innovators. And during that class, I learned that thing where I wasn't the leader, but I was the first follower. And the nuance between both is quite interesting when you want to do like venture capital, because the leader is the founder. So imagine there is you're in a club, nightclub. There is some music. No one is dancing on the floor. And then you have the first person that goes and dances on the floor. So this is the entrepreneur, but no one follows him. And then the moment you have a second person coming on the floor, everyone follows. So I understood that moment that I was really a first follower, and it made a lot of sense to me because since I was young, like even at primary school, I was always going and spending time with that one person that no one likes to spend time with. I always go and find like the one person that is like outlier or outstanding or out of, not very common, let's say, not the person that everyone can follow. I always liked spending time with this kind of people. And it hit me because when I had my own venture, I couldn't see myself, having this venture for the next 10 years. When at the same time I was talking to other entrepreneurs that had like this light in their eyes, that you see in entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs, or even growth, or like whatever the stage, but you see in their eyes that they are really passionate about their venture and they want to spend the next 5 to 10 years doing only that. And this is something I didn't have. But I was having this light when I was with these entrepreneurs, when I was adding value to their experiences through the venture builder I told you about that I have launched before being into VC, or even when I worked in a CVC in France as well. I met a lot of entrepreneurs. So this thing that I was seeing in their eyes gave me also like the willingness to do everything to support them and help them grow and move to the next stage. This is really the moment where I understood that one, I didn't want to be in like working in a company where I had to do one specific thing. Second, I was a generalist, and which means that I was curious, able to have interest in different industries and also in different, let's say, specialties in terms of departments. And third was that I was more passionate and more, I won't say passionate, but I was driven by helping entrepreneurs instead of being myself an entrepreneur, even if the fund is on itself an entrepreneurial adventure, let's say, because it's the first fund that we have launched. But we have the diversity of being able to look into different industries and be very operational for our co-founders. So I think, I think that was the logic I followed to conclude that I prefer being like the first supporter of entrepreneurs than myself an entrepreneur or working into within a corporate.
See, there's
That
so
was
much.
long.
No, but there's so much to unpack here, and thank you for sharing. There's so much. And again, I like that you touched on something generalist. I know that the world always optimizes for specialists, but again, you sort of expanded on the fact that you also need generalists, people that know a bit of every other thing and that can bring everything together. And I really appreciate that you touched on it, because I've met so many people that worry that, oh, I know how to do many things, right? But I don't feel like I'm good enough because I don't know how to do one thing extremely well. I'm not a specialist in this. And it just shows that even as a generalist, there's so much good you could do and there's so much impact you can make. And on your first follower philosophy, that is so good. That's so great. But I'm curious though, how do you then implement this philosophy into actual investment decisions with Kalys Ventures?
The philosophy of being generalist, you mean?
No, the first follower philosophy.
The first follower philosophy.
Yeah.
So the thing is that we have something in common with my co-founder, which is the fact that she has also the entrepreneurial mindset, let's say. Plus, she has been working in investment banking since like for 25 years, and she has her investment bank for 15 years now, which means that she has this visibility on metrics and unit economics about the major players in each industry, which gives us like the ability to see, even if it's an early stage company, if the metrics are going the right way, or if the vision is, let's say, optimized to narrow the metrics of the leaders of the market, let's say. So this is from really like a figures perspective, okay? From a very personal perspective, and this is something known in the market, I think, about us, is that and maybe it's also common for other funds, but for us it's really important to make sure that we do have a great personal relationship with the founders. It's very important because this is how you build trust. And with that trust, you're able to say, okay, I have in front of me a founder that is able to call me when he has his toughest time, because this is also very important, especially when you invest in founders early on in their journey. It's important to make sure that you're able to be there at the right time. So like, I would say that I won't say that for all the investments we did, we were the first ones to invest. There are some investments where we came at the seed stage or at the pre-series A stage, but we also had, and for these, I think that the only thing is really the relationship with the founder and being there for them, being able to help them with having hard discussions with other co-investors, help them bring to the table other co-investors. So being really present, supportive, even if like whatever the situation of the company is. So that's the first one on the support level. But on an investment level, we also do it sometimes when there is no lead. I mean, we don't mind investing even if there is no lead, because we see clearly how we can help the entrepreneur. We can take it to the level where he will become good enough for bigger investors or more advanced investors before coming. But we obviously see prior to that, we see the potential of the founder. And because we are able to be hands-on with him and be present for him, we know also that we will be able to take him to the next level. Even if he is not confident enough at the beginning, we can take him there. So this is how it's materialized.
And I tell people that it's easier to invest. It's actually harder to do the support work. So you can make all the promises and all, but when it gets to putting your hands in the weeds and working with the founders, there are very few investors that can do this very, very well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that we are doing it well, but we do everything we can. That's for sure. The impact is there for the startups as well. I mean, we see great impact on the operations, on the business, on like different levels of assess when you assess a company. But yeah, I'm not saying that just by I just want to be like humble here, not trying and saying that we're making startups grow to the Series B level or things like that. We're not there yet,
but you're getting there.
Well, yeah, we were getting there, exactly.
Yeah, having a partner in business is actually like marriage, right? And in the last 2 years where the capital markets have struggled, I've seen so many relationships, and I mean business relationships, struggle because when there are money problems, every other thing, all the problems begin to look so magnified. How have you managed to maintain a good relationship with your partner at the fund and sort of see eye to eye, even on issues that you disagree with?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I also think that, as you said, like finding the right co-founder is not easy. I've been there in some other, like in other ventures where the choice of the co-founders was whether like too fast or not, with not the right processes or like for a lot of reasons it didn't work. But for this one, I think that the first thing was really the alignment in terms of, again, values with my co-founder. That was really, really important, meaning that even sometimes, if I see a startup, I can take it to, like different stages of the discussion. And maybe I can come at the end and share it with my co-founder, because I know that we will be automatically aligned on a lot of things, and vice versa. The same thing goes for her. She can like do a lot of things, and it's not important for us to always be up to date, like about everything, every decision, every partnership we make, because we know that we are driven with the same thing and also very aligned on the way we work as well as the way the decisions we take. So that's really important. The alignment in terms of values. Trust also. If you trust your co-founder, you're able to, you trust that. When I say trust, it's not in terms of, management of the treasury or things like that, but really trust on the fact that you know that your co-founder will always care about you and you will always care about your co-founder, and that both of you want the same thing, which is going to the, like elevating each other's. And that's very important. So I will always care more about her than I do care about myself when it comes to taking decisions related to the management of the fund. And the same thing again goes for her. Last point is the importance of being, how do you say it? How can I say the word? When there's a problem, like we won't say it's your fault or it's my fault. It's our fault. Always. Whatever the mistake is, it's global. It's us. It's not like individual. And that's very important because it's in this kind of moments where you feel that, like there's this strong relationship and trust as well. And that makes you confident about the rest of the journey, because it's in the hard moments that you see exactly how the other person will react, like if she will take the first advantage of the first disagreement or first problem to take you down, or if she will be, also, I won't say supportive, but, like when you, do you have the word? When you have it? No?
No, it's
But yeah, I think you got the idea. So that was that's what's important.
My wife often tells me that it is me and you against the problem, and
Yeah,
not the other way
exactly.
around. And
Yeah.
and that does make a lot of sense.
Your wife is right.
I'd like to get into your head and your partner's head on how you see Africa. What exactly is your thesis on healthcare, logistics, education, and all these sectors that you prefer to invest in Africa?
So I think that, as I told you, like I had the opportunity to spend some time in China, some time in France because I'm there since 2017, some time in the US. I spent 1 year. And what I saw there is really the interest that these countries have towards Africa. And as a Moroccan who grew up in North Africa, because I'm Moroccan, as I just said, I grew up in North Africa. For me, every time I was hearing like people in China, for example, during some meetings regarding China and Africa relationship, trades, all that, I felt that I had like a lot of legacy when it comes to Africa, because I'm from Africa, and I felt that they were, they were thinking about how they can, make a maximum of the opportunities in our continent that is growing and have a lot of potential. When I'm locally based, I don't see it as much, So I felt that something was missing and that I had to dig deeper on it. So that's when I went to Congo, Brazzaville, and I spent 6 months there because, again, just like they told me when I was in Congo, when I told them that I was also African, they asked me, where are you from? I said, I'm from Morocco. They're like, no, 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 no. Morocco is not Africa, because for them, like, we were kind of, a little bit more developed. So they weren't positioning Morocco as part of Africa. And for me, it was exactly the same vision that I had. For me, Morocco wasn't really representing like the real struggles of a lot of African countries. And I had to stay in another, like, sub-Saharan Africa to see these struggles, let's say, that were obvious when I was there, which is like the access to clean water, the access to energy. We were just sitting, and that was normal to lose the electricity at work, when you're at home, things like that. So when I saw these problems, and when I saw also that opportunistically and business-wise, a lot of, very developed countries were seeing the potential of Africa. Plus, when I also went to the US and saw the ability of technology to really disrupt some industries and have a lot of impact, for me, I also saw the opportunity for Africa, let's say, to leapfrog. This word is very used, I guess, when you talk about Africa, but really to leapfrog some gaps between the continent today and other places in the world in the next years. But at the same time, as a controversial, when you look at the numbers, the GDP of Africa is equal today to the GDP of France. We're comparing like a whole continent with one country. That's huge. That's huge, and it shows that the gap is very important, mainly on our ability to value the product that we have, because the only difference is really their ability to import, let's say, the products that we have in Africa and add value to it, transform them, and like create, increase the value of the products. And because of that, because we're not able to do that, we're not able to give the right education to our population, the right health system to our population, the right food system to our population. So this is kind of related. So whether you're able to have an impact on the way industries can work, like Industry 4.0 to make production more efficient, and like as an impact or as a result, you can also increase the revenues of local companies, which means that you're also able to increase the job offers that you can give to people, the salaries that you can also give, which also means a direct impact on the consumption. And like this is a whole macro lesson, let's say, that we can talk about, but that's not the objective. But anyway, that was just to tell you first why we have decided to focus on Africa, why I was seeing the opportunity, even if when you talk about liquidity, it's not the best markets right now. And when we talk about the level of fundraising, I'm sure you've seen the latest report of Partech, which said that African fundraising was at $3.2 billion in 2024, including debt funding as well, when in the US it was more than $125 billion. So not really the same level. We are in a different league, let's say. So investing in the risk is higher. The risk that you take as the investor is higher. So that's why since we started, we have tried to filter a little bit our pieces, let's say, by, for example, not doing hardware. So we have decided to only focus on software, by also not investing in Anglophone side of Africa. By design, in 2024, we have decided to only focus on the Francophone side of Africa. And we have added something to our investment pieces, which is the Moroccan diaspora. And the reason why is because this Moroccan diaspora is, and we've seen it in from, a lot of studies, technically speaking, they are really good. They have followed like great studies, great universities. I think the same goes for like a lot of African countries. When we talk about Nigeria, South Africa, I do know that a lot of them like follow the high studies at Stanford, Berkeley, and schools like these. But Moroccans as well. And why I'm talking about Morocco, because we do manage, let's say, know quite a lot about our ecosystem. So if we see a startup founded by a Moroccan in diaspora that was able to work, for example, with the top tier industries, top tier players in the telecom industry, for example. And it's easier for him to come to Morocco with these references than as an early stage startup that will start from Morocco. So it's easier for us to have an impact in Africa because of the cultural proximity, let's say. So because it's a Moroccan, then he has like some links with his country. He wants to give back to the country and have also an impact using his technology locally. Right? So this is the first motivation that he might have. But also locally, these corporates sometimes, they're not always open to work with startups because for them, like sometimes they're not able to work with the big corps. Their technology is not strong enough to be able to treat like big volumes, things like that. But when the startup was able to work with the big players, competitors internationally, then it's easier to convince the local players to work with these startups and to start like shifting their model from the very traditional one to a modern one and indirectly have the impact expected on the population, let's say. So this is why we have decided to integrate on the Moroccan diaspora as well. But when it comes to your question about the different industries and how they are shaped in Africa, I think that as you're also, at Lunch Africa, I guess, I don't know, I guess it's a disclosed information for your audience, right? So that you
no,
work
but
as
it's good because you sort of answered again your motivation for investing and how you see the market.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Great. Okay.
We've
Good.
covered that.
Okay. Good.
We're going to go into our rapid fire questions. Where I'm just going to ask you real quick questions and give me some short answers. So drum roll. Okay. Virtual or remote? Which do you prefer?
Remote.
Oh, I thought you would have said. Actually, no.
You said
let me rephrase
virtual
that.
or remote. This is
Yeah,
the
let me
same
rephrase
thing,
that.
no?
I need to rephrase that. That was a mistake. Virtual or in person?
In person, definitely in person.
So you like that energy when you talk to people?
Yeah, definitely. But I think I love the remote is better than virtual because for me, like it's when you say remote, it's more hybrid. So we have part of it is physical and the other one is not. So I prefer when it's both. Because I'm, as you say, Gen Z. I love to move around all the time. I don't like to stay in an office, but I do love being with the team physically and brainstorming together. And when we need to think together, I love when it's in person. It's important.
What is the best founder quality you look out for?
Can I give two?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, so transparency, that's the first one, and hunger.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other city in Africa would you like to move to?
Is it like?
Yeah.
Maybe hunger is not the right term. Like hungry. Hungry is more. It's more like hungry. Yeah. Someone who's hungry, like who wants to achieve things, who has a dream. Like he's doing that for something. So I need this. I need that. I need to see it in a founder.
What other African city would you like to relocate to?
What
other African city would you like to move to or relocate to?
I think there are a lot of African cities that I never visited before. So there are a lot on my list, but Morocco.
We want one. No, you can't say Morocco.
But
you can't say Morocco.
Because I'm based in France, so I can't say Morocco because I'm not based in Morocco. But if I had to choose another one, I would say South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's one thing that VCs should stop doing?
Overvalue.
Yeah. We've had to deal with that.
Yeah, overvalue because our men we don't have the same motivations really. Some are financed by public institutions and others are financed by private institutions. Some do have carried, others don't have carried. So motivations of fund managers are different. And so when some are motivated by the number of deals that will be done, others are motivated by the quality of the equity story, let's say, of the startups. So that's why I think that's why it's imbalanced for me. Yeah.
Okay, and one final question. What is one advice that is popularly given that you don't agree with?
Scale. scale because it's too easy to say, especially when it comes to early stage startups. Well, for me, it's important to resonate them and tell them first to build strong businesses before thinking about the scale of these businesses, because we always forget that a startup is above everything. It's a company, so it needs to be sustainable. So that's one thing that I would suggest to founders. And another thing, can I give another one?
Yeah.
Don't easily sign safes. It's not. I know it's easy for you as an entrepreneur to sign a safe, but first safe is okay. Second and third, you will understand quickly that this has like a very bad impact on your dilution.
Yeah.
So, but not a lot of founders know about it. And the thing is that they only see it when they are at their third or fourth round, and they work the cap table with the new investors, and the investors say, that's not it. That's not what your dilution look like. What you don't know is that the 20% that you promised to the first investor will still be 20%, even if you had 3 other investors after. So don't sign safes. That's the second advice.
Thank you so much, Ghita. I just have to add some. Yeah, this was really, really amazing.
Thank you.
So we end every of our recording with one question. So I would ask you to rank the 4 things I'm going to mention to you. Which one is most important to you? Which one is the least important to you?
Mm-hmm.
Power, money, fame, and pleasure. Which one is most important, and which one is the least one to you?
I would say pleasure is 1, and fame is the least one. Yeah.
Okay, you've all been listening to Ghita, and I really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure the listeners enjoyed it too. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully maybe we'll record a live one day.
Yeah, I mean, next time we see each other, I'd be happy to record maybe in Morocco during GITEX.
Yeah.
You'll be here, right?
Yes, I plan to.
Cool. Okay, that's great.
All right.
Thanks again, Wem, and always a pleasure to discuss with you. Take care of you.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
This has been the Grinders Table podcast, bringing you unfiltered insights from Africa's most compelling founders and business leaders. If you had found value in today's conversations, here's how you can help us amplify these stories. Take 30 seconds to share this episode with someone in your network who's building, investing, or curious about Africa. You'll be amazed at how many life-changing connections start from a single shared conversation. And if you're feeling generous, a quick rating and review goes a long way. It helps more founders and business leaders discover these powerful insights. Until next week, keep grinding.